There's a lot more to be excited about in the MMO space for the rest of the year than you may think. But wait, because excited about the MMO space? I don't think that's allowed, right? Like, I don't think we're allowed to do that. I mean, we're not allowed to enjoy things. You've heard it from plenty of people like myself with channels like this, and even, I guess, me at times. Sorry for that. You've heard the things over and over and over again. MMOs are dead. Every game is trash or a scam. The genre is just not what it used to be. Everything is completely and utterly filled with microtransactions. Even the games, the great games that once were box and sub, now are laden down with tons of little convenience potions here, a little bit of inventory expansion there, maybe a tiny bit of a mount or some cosmetics. Fuck, that one's actually true and real, and that doesn't work with the sarcasm. But just for the moment, I need you all to imagine something with me. That maybe, just maybe, MMOs can still be fun. And the millions of players across the world currently playing them are actually just enjoying them. Baby. Baby duck.
Okay, it's going up. It's going up. It's going up. Oh shit! I got shot at. Oh my god. I'm bleeding out.
So here is some of the damn good stuff to look forward to for the rest of the year as we continue to go forth and enjoy the genre we love. And in the spirit of this video, I'm going to avoid saying the usual type of qualifying negatives that I normally would, just to make this a fully positive video. Because I say enough negative shit. We'll start with expansions, because 2024 may well go down as the year of expansions, because not only are there a lot of them, but several of the top 5 or top 10 games will be launching expansions. First on deck of the big ones is going to be Dawntrail from Final Fantasy XIV, which not only starts a new story, a new chapter for the long-standing venerable MMO, but brings with it a subtle but very important graphic and lighting fine-tuning that should make the game kind of refresh, a game that already did have a lot of beauty to it. But with this tuning, you'll kind of bring it more up to the modern standards. And that will be launching on July 2nd of 2024, with early access a few days before on June 28th. It brings 2 new DPS jobs that look like a lot of fun as well, especially the Pictomancer, the brush-wielding badass that provides a rarely seen look to the usual DPS class. Oh yeah, and the Viper looks pretty damn cool too. But before we jump to the Murloc in the room, let's talk about some smaller expansions coming this year. Of course, EverQuest and EverQuest 2 will be launching their annual expansions, the 31st and 21st respectively. Both of these will be at the end of the year, all in a year that's been unusually active for EverQuest, especially on the PR side of things, as they've actually run several events, they've done AMAs, and they've done things like the free progression server weekend. Hell, they attended PAX East and did a panel. But perhaps the most of all, they'll be holding a digital and in-person version of the fanfare called Fippyfest for the first time since they became Daybreak after SW sold them all the way back in 2014, marking a 10-year drought that will finally end for the FanFests. Granted, this will be much more about being digital than in person, but it's still a nice thing to see, especially for the fans of the IP that will get to kind of enjoy it all together. There's more about EverQuest and the expansions to talk about, but we'll hang on to that until just a little bit later. Moving on to another large game, hot off the heels of the announcement, or then I guess kind of non-announcement of Guild Wars 3, we should be getting another expansion for Guild Wars 2 this year. This would make 3 straight years of expansions for Guild Wars 2, cementing its place in the top 10 and top 5 lists everywhere as a very active MMO, and one of the few bright spots for NCSoft, as repeatedly Guild Wars 2 has done well for them in the MMO market financially. It is also one of the MMOs that sees a hell of a lot of player satisfaction. We don't have many details on the upcoming expansion, but in the Q&A on last year's expansion, Secrets of the Obscure, they talked about the future of expansions, including the 5th in 2024 and the 6th in 2026. They'll be focusing on weapons in this upcoming 5th one at the very least. Secrets Obscure launched in August of 2023. I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility that we get a similar launch date in 2024, given that they want a more predictable schedule. I suppose kind of like EverQuest, which can be counted on to release an expansion every single December. And that might be a growing trend. It's something you're going to see as we keep going through these expansions, with a very particular reason as to why. Another top 10 game, Lord of the Rings Online, will have its own expansion in Q4 of 2024 that will include 4 new regions, a new instance cluster, and a new raid. It will take fans of the legendary Tolkien MMO East of Umbar 17 years after the game originally launched. This will be the 2nd consecutive year of expansions for Lord of the Rings Online, which begs the question, is this a coincidence tied to them being on the same umbrella of EG7 as EverQuest, or is it the start of a trend with MMOs, especially older ones? That trend could be because when you launch an expansion every year, you get kind of a predictable burst of income, something that's it's not as up and down as, say, a microtransaction. It also promises with new content to kind of keep players a bit more active, a little more invested. And it's something that we're starting to see a little bit more of. I mean, EverQuest has been doing it for a very long time. EverQuest 2 also with yearly expansions. And now we're starting to see some other games do it yearly as well. You know, kind of bucking the World of Warcraft every couple years trend. Although even that might be changing. Speaking of World of Warcraft, Blizzard made some waves last year when they announced not just 1 expansion, but 3, because why the hell not? The World Soul Saga officially begins at the end of this year with World of Warcraft's 10th expansion, The War Within. And as with most World of Warcraft expansions, it will bring a host of new changes, including a new class fantasy system called Hero Talents. This is a separate 3rd talent tree with 10 points that will let you customize your class. It kind of sounds like they'll just help you do what the job that you want to do, but better. Beyond that, there will be a new allied race and a new warband system for account-wide progression. If Dragonflight was the chaser to get over the Shadowlands hangover, this is WoW's opportunity to show that they are still deserving of the top spot. Elder Scrolls Online will be launching their latest chapter, which, yes, again, it's another annual expansion, another predictable income for the game company, having a new expansion with new content for players. It might be something we just start seeing all over the industry if it's not already kind of all over the industry, with the 2 glaring huge exceptions. This latest chapter promises to bring something new and exciting to the venerable MMO as they take you into the Westweald, another location pulling from Elder Scrolls Oblivion. The highlight of this expansion, though, setting it apart from the previous ones, has to be scribing, allowing you to customize your skills and further tailor your build. And honestly, potentially assisting in a gripe of mine I've had with the game over the years, as they provide you with greater agency in how you build your character. This ability to kind of craft your own spells sounds pretty phenomenal if it can be handled well and become a core component of the game and not just another thing that gets kind of thrown in and then tossed aside, as we see with many MMOs. Attempts at things and then throw it away. But I'm curious about it, and I'm saying that after making this video, which a lot of people were not happy with. There will be smaller expansions too, and some of them for games you may have never even heard of, like Ultima Online Outlands, the emulator starter of the 1997 MMO, which launched a new expansion on May 18th. Technically, that's already happened, but I just thought it'd be worth throwing it out there. That expansion brought with it new lands to the custom emulator with new dungeon skills, weapons, armor, and so much more. I singled this one out because they chose to release this as an expansion, like a traditional MMO, which is just so freaking cool to think of with a private server. But it should be noted that other emulators have done similar things, like Warhammer Online's Return of Reckoning, which continues to add in content. Or a few years ago, Star Wars Galaxy's Legends, one of the SWG private servers, literally made Bespin. So when you're looking for MMOs, consider private servers too. Next, we're gonna move on to testing. And yeah, testing of MMOs. Because that's kind of where the genre is right now. This is still something to be excited about, at least for me. On the front of in-development MMOs, some long developed MMOs have actually been making some big moves, or will be soon. First, we have to start with the biggest one in the room, the $48,000 ship in the room, the $600 million MMO that may or may not have brainwashed a player base, depending on who you ask. Please, I don't want drama. I just thought it was a funny joke. Please don't come for me. Star Citizen recently launched some major changes like adding in the first bits of wildlife to planets and UI adjustments, but perhaps most importantly, Alpha 4.0 for Star Citizen, which should bring with it version 1 of server meshing, is planned for later this year. The dynamic server meshing, if it works the way it's been described, would be pretty incredible and change so much of how Star Citizen and perhaps other games in the future work, allowing for things to be kind of seamless and really expand the game out from its kind of strict limitations it has at the moment for how many players on any individual server, and making it kind of really the game that it was supposed to be in a lot of ways. It also should be mentioned that they have talked up so far this year that 1.0, the release of the game, is somewhere on the horizon. Don't know if that's, I doubt that's this year, but you know, at least they're finally talking about it. Same with Squadron 42. From Star Citizen, we move on to the next largest and perhaps most anticipated test of the year. Even more so than bigger games like Pax Dei, which just had their 100,000 player test. Ashes of Creation will be jumping into its Alpha 2 phase sometime in Q3, barring any delays. This will open up the game to a lot more people in its current state, but perhaps most importantly, it will remove the NDA that has been present, letting players see what's been going on behind the scenes in a more unfiltered way. And yes, I will definitely be taking a look at it as soon as I possibly can to see what it's all about actually in game. That unfiltered way, that NDA-less way, is something that I really appreciate in these in-development MMOs, is actually something Pantheon has been doing since recently, and something they'll continue for the rest of the year. The PvE-focused MMO that pulls from EverQuest and Vanguard dropped its NDA earlier this year, allowing anyone with access to the game to stream it or make videos, take screenshots, write stories, whatever. With that, they opened up a seasons testing phase plan that allows access to the game 24/7 to VIP backers, 2 weeks every 6 weeks for the next tier of champion backers, and 1 week every 6 weeks for the minimum buy-in of $50 one time. Seasons are essentially Pantheon giving us a steady cadence of when to expect new things to be coming into the game. That's something they've been able to hit so far as they go into Season 4. Now, the bad optics aside of calling it Seasons, because it has such a negative connotation, because I think of battle passes with seasons, chapters, whatever. I don't know what they could have called it, but damn. It's actually been a pretty rousing success. They've been able to provide new content. They've changed a lot of the visuals of the game through lighting changes and things like that, and then new like grit added to different textures. And then in the very near future, on June 22nd, we'll be getting 2 of the remaining classes that will be added into the game, the Summoner and the Ranger, as well as the long-awaited return of the Ogre into the game, which I can't fucking wait for, because I'm really tired of just seeing everyone as a human. Oh, speaking of humans, there will also be a thickening of human models. Don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we should have an idea in the next couple weeks. The final indie MMO I wanted to cover is Monsters and Memories, who recently announced their first test of the year with a stress test on June 1st and a weekend test from the June 28th to June 30th. This MMO is heavily inspired by classic EverQuest, and they're working hard toward an early access launch in late 2025 or early 2026. So if you're looking for a bit of that exploration, that world that's a bit dangerous and one where you want to bring friends as you explore it, you can check that game out for free whenever you just sign up for the test and download the game. This last one, we don't actually have a confirmed date for. It's more about what they said in January, what's happened with the game, and kind of what's like guessing here from their most recent post that they made. This is about Pax Dei. So Pax Dei ended their recent 100,000 player test with a write-up digesting all of the things that they learned from the test, changes they want to make, especially to combat, which felt a bit too floaty, and showing off some of the incredible structures players made in the world. But perhaps most important to the latter half of 2024, they stated they are on track for early access. Basically said exactly that early access is on time, which is a bit interesting since they announced in January of 2024 that they would enter early access in, well, spring of 2024, which is, we're past that. It's so damn hot outside. I don't think how anyone could think it's still spring anymore. It's summer. But this will be interesting to watch the rest of the year to see if they launch into early access soon. Given their recent write-up after their Alpha 2, I wouldn't be shocked to see some kind of announcement soon of their revised early access plans and just what exactly on time means for this new idea of early access in 2024. Now, I mentioned that we would get back to EverQuest. Well, we're actually getting back to EverQuest 2 because we're going to talk about new modes in old MMOs. We're going to start with the EverQuest 2 Origin server. EverQuest 2's Origin server time-locked expansion, or whatever it is, really just Origin server, will be coming at the end of June. I wanted to give this its own spot because it's probably the most unique thing EverQuest 2 has done in quite some time. It's not WoW Classic, but it is aiming at it. EverQuest 2's Origin server is trying to pull back to a group-oriented focus to the game, dating back to 2006, just 2 years after it originally launched. But one of the things that is most surprising to me, and one of the things I think most people will appreciate, is that Krono, the in-game RMT, like the WoW token, cannot be consumed, traded, or sold on the Origin server. Much of the game will be restored back to 2006, including some old zones, like the 2 main cities and their neighborhoods. For many fans of EverQuest 2, at least as it was, and for those frustrated with the Krono markets dominating the game, this promises to be the closest thing to what we've been asking for. It's perhaps the server I am most excited about in 2024. Now we gotta talk about the big one, World of Warcraft, and all the new things it's trying. Doesn't have to necessarily succeed, just the things that it is trying. From WoW Classic and Cataclysm to the Pandaria remix to Season of Discovery to a Battle Royale of all things. Whether you're a fan of WoW as it was, as it is, or as it could be, it's hard to say they aren't trying. They're throwing several different game modes at their massive subscriber base and trying out new things. Many of those modes will continue throughout the year. For the rest of the year, WoW Classic will get more updates as they go through Cataclysm, and Season of Discovery will finish up its run with a level 60 update and then endgame content updates to end the year. And I mean, who knows, maybe they'll throw something else crazy at us. Although I don't think so. I think the Pandaria remix was the craziest thing we're gonna see, or the Battle Royale. That probably was the next closest crazy thing. Not to be outdone by its younger siblings, Ultima Online. Yes, that one. The one from 1997 that actually might be, you know, older than some of the people watching this channel. Not many. I see my demographics. Not many of the people watching this channel, but some of them. Well, it's finally pushing ahead with their announced plans for Ultima Online New Legacy, a new server and server rule set that focuses on a core RPG experience of the age-old MMO. And it's planned to launch in September of 2024 to celebrate 27 years of Ultima Online. This has been a long time coming, as New Legacy was first announced back in 2020. While Ultima Online still remains one of the more difficult games to get into if you never played it to begin with, it's also one worth investigating, and this new legacy server, this new start for the game that's promising a different experience, might be an opportunity not only for people that are returning to Ultima Online for the first time in years, but also perhaps some people that have never tried and are just a little bit curious about one of the first MMOs ever made. Beyond MMOs, there's some other things that are kind of closely related that are also worth talking about. The survival co-ops, because this has been kind of really a fantastic year for them and will continue to be. This is kind of like an MMO adjacent category. It's a lot of the same things you see in MMOs, a lot of the same gameplay loops you tend to see, especially in some of the more recent ones, just on a smaller scale with perhaps a little bit more building. What? It's not like I ever said my building was any good. That's on you for thinking that. You should know me by now. Enshrouded, Nightingale, Palworld, Bellwright, and others will all continue to update throughout the year as their ongoing early access models, bringing in big content updates and bug fixes throughout their early access periods in line with their published roadmaps through and beyond 2024. Honestly, it's kind of been a standout year for these games, and the second half of the year promises to continue to refine these early gems. We've already seen some massive updates like Valheim's Ashlands update that was years in the making, and V Rising going to 1.0 finally actually launching, as well as potential for some other breakout hits like Arc 2 potentially in Q4 of 2024. If you're a fan of this adjacent genre, this similar to MMO but not like an MMO in many key ways, it's been a good year and it looks like it will continue to be. My personal pick, my pick of the game that is the most fun out of all these has been Enshrouded. It has a lot of the exploration, the RPG elements, the combat elements, all those things that I really like in like an MMO, but it's put it in a survival game, and yes, you can play it with other people. And the big part of it that I think that I've really found that I've latched on to is the fact that you have like raid bosses technically with people to play with. You also have the ability to just kind of build what you want to build, and there's a lot less friction in the game, a lot less, you know, things like a lot less of the traditional survival things that you have to micromanage, and more of just like a exploration PvE RPG type game, an MMO RPG light, basically very, very light, because it's like 10 players or less. And kind of on that wavelength, there are some wild cards for the rest of the year, things that we just don't know enough about. Like, for example, how far along is Dune Awakening, and when or if it might launch or go into early access or testing or anything. We also have no idea when Light No Fire will be launching, if it's either like this year or in, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. Who freaking knows? Tarisland is also similarly in a nebulous state among a few others. Even Blue Protocol, for example, may have gotten delayed. We're not entirely sure. And it's kind of shocking that we don't know yet about Throne and Liberty's Western release after their recent beta test. And of course, there always remains the possibility for some distinct surprises, some announcements to get excited about, just general things to, hope for the rest of the year. The unknown, as it were. This next one is kind of personal for me, and I wanted to use this video because it's such a positive video to announce formally that the Scuffed Game Awards will be returning for 2024. The Scuffed Game Awards, for anyone who doesn't know, was a award show that I created last year, a community-based award show for MMORPGs and RPGs and the survival games like Enshrouded type games. It was something I got to co-host with my good friend, Mr. Guybrush, and it was so much fun doing it. I'm already in the process of kind of refining the categories and make sure that it is a better show this year than it was last year, and tighten it the fuck up because it was long. It was too long last year. Look toward the fall for announcements on nominations for this fun end of the year event. I cannot wait to celebrate MMOs and RPGs with you again. Lastly, we might be getting some other MMOs this year, some other launches, although some of them are looking a bit iffy. But I covered that in this video right here if you want to go check them out. And you'll be a little bit surprised at perhaps one of the ones that I'm actually really excited about. And probably not that surprised about one that I'm not that thrilled about.